located in Yaba, Lagos. Rodin Health is an HMO organization that has been doing very fantastically well in terms of HMO delivery. They have been very wonderful in sponsoring us. And also, we have Puzzle Health Limited, another organization owned by a very dynamic woman. And the company is located in at Oregu, also in Ikeja, a commercial city here in Lagos, or in Nigeria, in West Africa. And then they are into beauty and accessories, things like women care, baby care, toiletries, perfumes, and so on. Puzzle Health is online. You could reach them. Thank you so much for being there for us over the years. And then, my humble self, I remain your in-house motivational speaker. I am Benson Adima. I'm a teacher, a coach, a counselor, a human resource consultant, and an author. As a motivational speaker, I help young people to discover, develop, and maximize their potential. As a teacher, I drill people on the path of success so that with time, they could be successful and be confident enough to contribute their best to the living standard of humanity. As a coach, I help men and women to make wise choices and rational adjustment. As a human resource consultant, my business is to help people with practical ideas and information that they could use immediately to get better results. You see, the complexity we are in the society today demand those who are knowledgeable enough to arrest his attention. That is why we center our crusade on the need for people to be motivated. You get, motivation is a formidable tool in every given endeavor. So, when a man is highly motivated, he will perform at a higher frequency beyond his or her widest imagination. So, men and friends, I have come to discover that it was the spirit of motivation that was injected into the Americans that made them believe they are the best in the world. And they are living to that standard. So our goal is to motivate Nigerian, the West Africa, and the entire Africa society to awaken to believe that they are the best in the world, and then we begin to live to that standard. Until then, we will continue to motivate men and women in this part of the world. And someday, we aspire to become the foremost motivational speaker with the most satisfied audience all over the world. Before I bore you too much with a lot of introduction, today we will be sharing with you on what we consider the economic cancer of the bone, the menace to avoid. Economic cancer of the bone, the menace to avoid. Listen to this. Many people know that they have a problem. Many people are not happy with where they are. Many people are not satisfied with the status quo. Many people are not happy. In fact, according to findings, 75% of people all over the world are not happy with their lives. But many of these people are not willing to do anything to change their situation because they fear of doing something that will erode their situation further, overwhelm their sense of positivity about the results that will come if they venture to do anything. So listen to this, my friend. Many people who don't do anything about their situation, it's not because they don't have the capacity to do anything, but it is because they have allowed their heart or their mind to be overwhelmed by the challenges that bedevil them, as some have simply embraced what we consider the menarche, or some have found themselves in the economic cancer of the bone. So some people have even resigned to faith. They don't even have a dream to live for anymore. But this morning, it is my pleasure to announce to you, from wherever you are listening to us from all over the world, that if you can listen to us faithfully this morning and do away with all the menarche that we are going to be mentioning and discussing, you will become a better you in the near future. We are confident that you alone have the capacity to change your situation, because no situation is permanent and no condition is fatal. Economic cancer of the bone, the menarche to avoid. I call this in the economic cancer of the bone because if we indulge in them very slightly, you can as well forget about the future, because these things will also forget you, or the future will also forget you. Yes. So you must do anything and everything you can, within and without your capacity, to do away with these things we are going to be discussing with you this morning. Number one of the economic cancer of the bone is murmuring, complaining, and griping. Listen to this. Some of us live in the society where the business environment is not so fragrant. So many people have resigned to complain, to murmur, to gripe, to whine about the situation in their country and the situation of the economy of the nation. So the voice of human has overwhelmed their sense of reasoning. In as much as I will not want to blame them, these people have a reason to alter their situation at every time. Let me give you a practical example on this. If you are one who is inclined with the Christian Bible, you get the story of the children of Israel, where they were transiting from Egypt into the promised land. You get what happened? Immediately they begin the journey, they begin to complain, they begin to murmur, they begin to cry, they begin to whine about their situation. I call this very point the corrupter of Israel. Engage in complaint for 2 minutes, and you would have engaged in 5 years of setback. So from today, I want your confession to be positive and not about complaining and griping. because this complaining and griping is a parasite that has eaten deep into the fabric of many human lives. It has destroyed many organizations, and it has rendered many people incapacitated to do and to deliver on anything in their lives. So we are discussing this morning on economic cancer of the bone, and the first point is murmur, complaint, griping, and grumbling. Everybody do this, including me, except that because of self-awareness, we are doing everything to do away with this manner called complaining and murmuring. In fact, in a recent finding, we discovered that 2 out of every 5 members of a family complain every day about certain economic situation in their country, especially in developing nations. So listen to this. In Africa, Christians grumble about each other, about their leaders. Even you find out that children grumble about old men. And then even students sit in school. They say, look at that lecturer. He cannot even do anything more than to eat granite in the classroom. Grumbling, complaining everywhere. Society is smelling with a lot of it. The Bible said, and all the congregation of the children of Israel, what did they do? They lift up their voice and they cried. The Bible said the people wept the whole of that night. And they said to Moses, are there no grave in Egypt that you have bring us to die in the desert? It would have been better that we remain in Egypt and die. The problem with many people is that the joy of where they are going is not sufficient in their heart to overwhelm the voice of humming and glooming. I remember during the subsidy saga some years ago in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, a man by name Professor Pat Otomi was engaged in a channel television interview, and they asked him a question and said, why is it that change is difficult? In his answer to that question, Pat Otomi said, change is difficult because people who are enjoying from the former era will not want the new era to come, and the people who are going to benefit from the new era will want to see it before they believe it. End of quote. But the Christian Bible says, woe unto a man who sees before he believes. So listen to this, my friend. Don't wait to see before you believe. If not so, you become a believer or unbeliever. So the children of Israel continue to murmur, whining and complaining. I think you can read that story somewhere in the book of Numbers, chapter 4, verse 1 to 3. You remember the story very well. The good news is that the children of Israel are about to move to the promised land. But the bad news is that these same people never get there. You know the reason? From day one they set out, they begin to murmur. They begin to complain. They begin to gripe about the water. They bitterly ruminate about the negative weather. Even they continue to whine and cry about food. They continue to murmur against the leaders. They gripe and whine. It was too far. It was too cold. It's too difficult. It's too miserable. And so on. So you know what? At a point, God said, okay, my children, I have heard. The journey cancelled. Do you know all the children of Israel that left Egypt alive, who were 40 years in the journey in the wilderness, none of them get to the promised land, including Moses and Aaron, except all the children below 40 years old. In other words, people who were born after the children of Israel crossed the river Jordan. They were the ones that were able to get to the promised land. Many of you have a lot of promised land you want to get to. You have a vision you have anticipated to deliver. You have a goal that you have set to get into. But when the voice of humming and grooming of the society meet with your ear, you let go of your vision. You let go of your dream. The joy of getting to the promised land begins to diminish. And then you end up not getting to where you're supposed to get to. Why, my friend? You have been complaining for too long. Let us let this nonsense called complaint go. And those in complaining long enough, and you are sure your future will be cancelled. I pray that will not be your portion. Even God himself can take very little or take very much. When you complain too much, God will abandon you in the desert. So look at this one, all he can do is to complain. If he could abandon the children of Israel in the desert because of complaint, then he can abandon anybody. Do you know children of Israel also caused Moses not to get to the promised land? Because at the point when their complaining was too much, Moses could not hold it anymore. He got angry and he struck the rock. And God says, since you do this, you will never get there. Before I sound like a preacher this morning, I got to move on. But take this. God abandoned only those who abandon themselves. If you don't abandon yourself, God will not abandon you. And whoever have the courage to shut off his sorrow within his own heart is stronger to fight against it than anybody who engage in complaining, griping, and murmuring. Point number 2 this morning. I hope those of you who are not on the Instagram, you are enjoying us this morning. The second point this morning, and the next thing I want you to kill, is what I consider excuse and alibis. When it comes to excuses, many people or the world is full of great inventors. They can manufacture excuse of any kind. That is the second menace you must avoid. Excuse. Excuse. An excuse. Oh, I can't do this, it's too hard. I can't do this, it's raining. I can't go there, the sun is too hot out there. I can't do this because I don't have anybody to aid me. Listen to this. Nobody is strong enough. People go out against their excuses and they become better men and women at the end of the journey. So your excuse is not genuine, my friend. Your excuse is not genuine, my darling. So why have you been giving excuses? Like I said in one of our broadcasts a few days ago, a young man was walking down the road with his father or with his friend, and someone met him and said, "Young man, why are you so a short man?" And the young man answered and said, "If you see my father, you will not blame me for my height." In other words, because his father was a short man, that is why he's a short man. God came to the Garden of Eden and he asked Adam, where is your wife? Why have you eaten the forbidden fruit? He said, "It's the woman you gave to me." Listen to this. If everybody engages in excuses like you do, what you are enjoying today in the world like a big house, a good system in your hand, you will not enjoy that. Nobody is actually sufficient in his own. But listen to this, I want to give you a logo today. Today is the day you must give up the story you have been telling. The story you made up about why you aren't there yet. The story you make up about why you can't do it. The story you make up about why you are not good enough. The story you make up about why you are not committed to your job. The story you make up about why you have not decided yet. The story you make up about why you could not attend another level of education. The story you make up about why you cannot save money. The story you make up about why you cannot pursue your dream. Oh, the country economy is very bad. You got to let those stories go. Like I always said, if you are weak enough to use one excuse, the devil will be happy to give you excuse number 2. So you get to do something about your life, my friend. Stay with me in a moment. Don't go away. I'll be right back. Call it a Mina break. Enjoy my tone. I'll be right back. Thank you. Thank you for being there. Thank you for being there. Thank you for not going away. And those who have gone away for one reason or the other, I'm sorry for that. I needed to craft something. All right, thank you. So, I'm right here with you. Sorry for the disconnection in the flow. So listen to this. You got to stop the alibis. You got to stop the excuses. Before I sound like a preacher this morning, I look into the Holy Christian Bible. Do you know what I discovered? I discovered that even people, they have a lot of excuse. That if they want to give, they wouldn't have become generous. That we have seen or are reading about today. But many of them refuse to give in to their excuses. And then they become what? Generous. Through what they do. Someone like Abraham. Abraham could be saying, I am too old. Someone like Jacob. Jacob was insecure. Remember when he was returning, he met his brother Esau, who came to welcome him. You know, he was almost about to bribe Esau out of insecurity. Leah was unattractive. Joseph was abused. Moses taught her. Gideon was a poor man. Rahab was immoral. David has a record of immorality against him and all kinds of family problems. Elijah was suicidal. Jeremiah was depressed. Someone like Jonah was reluctant to go and deliver the message of God. Someone like Naomi was a widow. Peter was impulsive and high-tempered. Someone like a woman of Samaria, she failed. She has many failed marriage records. Someone like Zacchaeus was unpopular. What of Thomas? He has a lot of doubts. Someone like Paul has a health challenge all his life. Timothy was timid. But all these people were able to achieve great things because they refused to give in. Apostle Paul in one of his records said, he said, I forget those things which are behind me and I press forward towards the mark. That is a commitment to the future activities. So this got to be your logo and stop using the excuse. I know many people in my generation who are in the excuse because they don't have a parent to take care of them. That's why they could not go to university. Some are complaining they graduate from university. There is no job for them to do. How can a complete human being with 2 legs, 2 arms, complain that there is no job to do? Whereas there is a man called John Foppy who can swim, write, operate computer, all with his legs. But you have a right-footed young man giving excuse about why they cannot do certain things. In fact, I was listening to a confession by an armed robber a few days ago. He said, coronavirus has pushed me into armed robbery. Another one said, because my wife is heavily pregnant, I don't have any money to take care of her. So I have to go into armed robbery to make sure I raise some money. That is highest level of stupidity for anybody. I'm sorry to use the language. For anybody to give any excuse as a reason why he should go into negative activities. No excuse is good enough to convert failure to success, my friend. That is the more reason why you must stop using all manner of excuses. Because none of them is going to be accepted at the end of the journey. When you face your children at the end of your journey, and they ask you, Father, where are you? Where your age mates were doing this, and that. What will you tell them? Will you be confident enough to pocket your hand and say to your children, I am sorry, my son, I didn't do enough to do what my friends are doing when they were doing it? Or what exactly is going to be your excuse as a reason why you don't do what you're supposed to do to get to where you're supposed to go to? Don't forget, human life has a limited time. If you follow most of our talk, you will see that I have talked a lot about the subject of excuse. This thing is so common in the community I was born and brought up. And it pains me a lot when I see everybody, young men, complaining, whining, griping, giving excuses, all manner of alibis as a reason why they could not go further in their life. It's very painful and ridiculous in my own eyes. A few years ago, I was teaching in a school somewhere in the heart of Ikeja. I'm talking about something of about 8 years ago or so. My salary was 10,000 naira. And it was out of that 10,000 naira, I borrowed money from a friend to go and seek admission to University of Lagos. In fact, when I told one of my elder brother that I'm seeking admission to university already, he said, where is the money to continue that? I said, I don't want to know where the money is coming from. This is what I must do at this time. I thank God I took that bold step. I did not heed to the alibis that characterize our life. And today I am happy to say I was able to graduate from that school. Regardless of the challenges I faced in that place, I came out stronger and better. So what is your own excuse, my brother? What is your own excuse, my friend? Why have you not stepped up to do what you think is the most important thing in your life? It is time to wake up out of our cocoon. The point number 3 and the menace number 3 that you must avoid is called procrastination. Procrastination. I call this one the greatest killer of destiny. In fact, Reverend Chris, we always love to call it the thief or the bomber of dreams. You can also call procrastination as a thief. Procrastination is a thief of destiny. It's a thief of dream. And you must have to kill it now before it kills you. Many people have procrastinated even to the point of the entrance of heaven. A man said, let me quickly go home and make it ready with my family before I will come. Thank God for Jesus Christ who said, let the dead bury themselves. Many of us are in the process of burying our dead bodies so much that our destiny is far gone from whatever we could do to pursue and to go after our destiny. Procrastination is a very dangerous tool. Procrastination is postponing what you could do today to tomorrow for certain reasons known to yourself, which cannot be tenable to other human beings on earth. So, you should understand that time flies. Time waits for no man. And then, to buttress this, one of the greatest thinkers in history said, know the true value of time and snatch, seize, and enjoy every moment of it. No endless delay. He said no procrastination. Never put us till tomorrow what should be done today. Do you know what the Christian Bible say about procrastination? It was Moses who was offering a prayer. God called Moses at the age of 80. And then he's supposed to be, at that age, he's supposed to be a resting age. But he knows the importance that God has placed on him by calling him at that age of his life. Do you know what Moses did? He looked unto heaven and he prayed unto God. He said, Father, teach me to number my day that I will apply my heart unto wisdom. What many people have taken to celebrate their birthday up and down today. What Moses was praying for is that he is closer to grave than necessary. So God will help him to understand the urgency of time to be able to lead the people of God into the promised land. But many of us, what did you do with the time we have? Oh, our tomorrow never ends. Tomorrow I will do it. Next tomorrow I will do it. Next year I will do it. Oh, next 2 years I will do it. Listen to this. Those of you who said in 2000 and in the year 2020, I will do so and so. Now look at it. The nature has given you another excuse. Coronavirus has come. Everywhere you go, the story is that coronavirus could not allow me to do this. Coronavirus could not allow me to do that. Coronavirus has not allowed me to do this. Look at that. Procrastination of all kinds. You don't know what will come in the year 2021. That is why you must do what you need to do now in the midst of corona. I see men going to the altar, putting on face shield and a nose mask to go to altar to do the marriage because they don't want to wait till next year. I see young men going out to write business proposal because they can no longer hold on. How long can you begin to procrastinate? If you allow another coronavirus to meet you where you are, then you are the most miserable of men. You see young people in the city flying on high aircraft and so on, and you see it in one place. Each time I see somebody my age mate doing better than I am, it provokes something in me, nothing to envy, but it provokes some massive actions in me. It triggers some man in me to say, Benson, you need to do something else about your life. So I have decided, see, I cannot do a lot of things. I have decided to do the small thing I can do. Because someday, a little here and a little there will add up and it will become something wonderful. I am more convinced now than ever before in the history of my life that I am going somewhere wholeheartedly, regardless of where the economy of the nation is going. So let it be your resolve today, my friend. Do what you need to do when you have the power. I always say if God is all you have, then is all you need. Don't wait for a perfect condition before you leave the house. This is my motto. Don't wait for perfect condition. Don't wait for all the light in the traffic to turn green before you start off. Once the light turn blue, begin your journey. Those are the people that move on time. You got to do something about your life. Enough of procrastination. You have procrastinated until you get to this point. You have to do something now. People who say tomorrow, every day is the tomorrow that you call. Every week is the next week that you talk about. Every year is the next year that you talk about. So it got to be now. I wrote something sometimes ago, and I say entrepreneurship requires some level of urgency. That word is an amplification from Christian Bible. The Bible said the kingdom business requires some urgency. What is the urgency in your plan? Where is the urgency in your activities? My friend, a lot of procrastination. The Bible says somewhere, he said, "Ye that say tomorrow I will do, and tomorrow I will go into that city. I will continue there for years, and I will buy and sell and get gain." And he said, "Whereas ye know not what tomorrow shall offer." He said, "For what is your life? Is it not like a vapor that pass away? Me, I'm here speaking to you today. What of if tomorrow by this time God will take me away? Nobody knows. That is why I have to hold this seminar by all means. So that if by the end of today God take me away, you would have benefited from the wisdom I have in my head. In the last few years, this is how to be urgent about do what you need to do. You got to do it anyhow. When you venture out anyhow and beat your procrastination, the power that governs the economy of the world, they will come to your aid and they will help you to get to where you are going. So listen to this. The days of your years are 3 core years. You need to take note of that whenever you are planning anything, so that you will not allow procrastination to destroy you. Let me share this example with you of a senior pastor, D.L. Moody. He's a senior pastor in 90s in the United States of America. You know what happened to him? One evening, he has a 5 days conference. And on the Sunday of that conference, as he was ministering towards the end of the program, he said he was tired. And then he told his members to go home and think on the message that he has preached. Now when they come back next Sunday, he will make the altar call for people to give their life to God. Guess what happened? As the soloists begin to sing the song, and the people begin to disperse, here come the great outburst of the Chicago fire. And the fire bursts out in the city. Heavy cry here and there. Guess what? About 100 people out of D.L. Moody member were engulfed by that fire. And they never have opportunity to hear the altar call that he was going to make. Do you know what happened to people? Do you know why people procrastinate a lot? It's because most times when you are at the verge of your breakthrough, you will get tired. You will get very, very tired. In fact, a lot of discouraging factor will come when you are at the edge of your breakthrough. Listen to this. Those who give up at the edge of their breakthrough don't know how close they were to the victory they ever anticipate for. Those of us who live in the village, have you noticed this before? You dig a hole for a rabbit for a very long time. When you are getting to the end of that hole, a rabbit that is patient enough will stay at the end, hoping that you will leave it and go. When you are about to get to the end of your digging, you will be very, very tired. And you know what will happen? When you are so tired, you will just drop the hole, and then you will go away. Then the rabbit will come out. A man who is passing by will just see the rabbit coming out of that hole. He will kill it. When that man gets home, he will be counted as a great hunter. You who have put effort from morning till night, all your effort became a waste. Men and friends, listen to this. Don't give up when you are really, really tired. The greatest victory is the one that is won the hard way. So don't allow your procrastination to take the whole of you. It can be better if you hold on and hold out. Procrastination is a thief of time. You can't let it go. In the few paragraphs ahead, I think I have been able to talk to you about procrastination. I got to move to the next point. But before I move, I want to highlight something to you. If you have a biro, please write how to beat procrastination. The point number 1, you need to plan and prioritize. I'm going to give you 7 points. Number 1, you need to plan and prioritize. Number 2, you need to concentrate. Number 3, you need to avoid things that make you tired. Number 4, you need to do procrastination by walking. Number 4, okay, that is number 5. You need to do procrastination by walking. Number 6, you got to separate your work from play. Don't play and be working at the same time. Separate the two. I hope you don't want to be called an office playboy. I'm talking to people who are engaged in one employment or the other. There are a lot of people who are known in their office as a playboy. Don't be that kind of a person. There is always a time to laugh in the office, and there is a time to get serious with the business. Point number 7, think you can do it. Think you can do it. And if you can do that, then you can do it. I move to the next point now on what I consider the economic cancer of the bone. Point number 4. Economic cancer of the bone, number 4. I don't want to talk much about this point, but one of the greatest enemy of success is called comfort. Many people are comfortable where they are seated. If you are a kind of person who can sit in front of television for 4 hours, but you cannot read a book for 1 hour, go and rededicate your life. If you have not dedicated before, then go and dedicate your life. You need the baptism of the Holy Spirit through the anointing or whatever one of the apostles can do for you. You need it seriously to get out of your cocoon. So comfort is the greatest enemy of success. When you see a man who is comfortable with where he is, and then you have seen a man who will not attain great things. Many people at the end of a particular victory, they want to rest for a while. Don't be that kind of a person, my friend. I hope you're enjoying me there. Our friends on the Instagram, our friend on Facebook, I could see your happiness is highly there. Thank you. Thank you for being there. So listen to this. Don't allow comfort to overwhelm you at the end of a victory. Last year, I launched a book. It's not enough for me to cross my leg. I say I have done enough. No. This year, my second book is ready. I mentioned this some time ago. It's ready to go for editing. And once the editing is done, then we begin to move from there. So don't be relaxed. After you finish your first degree, don't say you have done enough and you go and sit down somewhere and you want to enjoy your life. No, this is not the time to rest, my friend. It is the time to look and think of how you could take and go for your next degree. You need it. If you need to do, there are some people who are working in some organization for 2 years, for 3 years. They have never think of going to acquire another level of education. You are becoming comfortable, my friend. You need to wake up. And the next point, because I told you I will not dwell too much on the point of procrastination, on the comfort. A point number 5, it talks about laziness. Laziness is the secret ingredient that go into poverty, but it keeps the secret from the man who failed. Listen to this. You can't achieve your goal or your dream in theory. It takes actions. It takes work for you to achieve your goal and your dream. Not just action, massive action for that matter. So you can't fulfill your destiny in the theory. It takes work. It takes a lot of action. And nothing is natural about achieving your goal. It is about taking action, action, and action. It's about doing doing, and continue to do. One of my distance mentor and a motivational speaker will always say that you need to do it badly until you know how to do it well. That is Liz Brown. He's a very powerful motivational speaker, also there in America. So there is no free enterprise anywhere. In other words, it means free enterprise is all about work. If you listen to what William Shakespeare said, he said nothing can come of nothing. It got to be something for something. It got to be an eye for an eye. It's going to be tooth for the tooth. It's going to be nose for the nose. It's going to be action for action. It's going to be action for action. One of the things I come to discover more recent than now is that those who are highly successful, they don't have time to sit down and listen to other people. They are so focused in their life about what they are doing and how to achieve it. So my friend, you got to wake up and do what you can, when you can, with what you can, where you are, the way you are, with what you have very well in your hands. That is the way to achieve greatness. And then one of the menace that you must avoid is laziness. Laziness, striving for success without hard work, is like trying to harvest where you did not sow. And listen to this: what you believe will not amount to too much, except it causes you to climb up out of the grandstand to go and do something about it. So according to David Blair, striving for success without hard work is like trying to harvest where you did not plant. You need to get this one clear. I believe the Lord did not burden us with work, but what God has done with humanity is to bless us with work. All men are alike in their promises. They can give you thousands of promises, but it is only in their deeds that men are different. There are people who can talk a lot, but when they come to do it, they will never do a lot. That is why I'm always checking my life. I don't want to be a kind of motivational speaker who speak a lot and don't do a lot of things. So I'm always trying as much as possible to train myself to be able to do what I teach other people to do. I look forward to become a motivational speaker with high standing results that I can show to other people, or people can see physically in my life. So that when I open my mouth to motivate men and women, they will see a reason to believe what I motivate them about. So my friend, laziness is the secret ingredient that go into poverty. You must avoid laziness by all means. If you are a young person and you sleep 8 hours every night, you are not helping yourself. If you are a young person and you want to sleep 6 hours every night, by all means, I don't think you are doing yourself a lot of good. You need to wake up and do something very serious about it. Yes, there is a need for rest, but let me say this to you: you can't rest enough. So the same way you cannot walk enough. So take note. For those of you who are Christian, the Bible gives us a good example of the ant. Do you know ants? They are very small creation of God. But do you know what the Bible says somewhere? In the book of Proverbs chapter 6 verse 11. It says, "My son, go to the ant, consider her ways, and be wise." He said, ant has no guide. They have no overseers, but they provide their meat in the summer, and they gather their food in the harvest. Now how long without sleep, O ye sluggard? When wilt thou arise out of thy sleep? He said, a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of hand to sleep, so shall thy poverty come like an armed man. Have you read that portion of the Bible before? I think it's somewhere in the book of Proverbs chapter 6 verse 6 to 11. Listen to this while I wrap up on this point. A lazy man will never roast his game. A lazy man will go to farm. He will catch an animal. When he returns, what will he do? The same man will not do anything about his game. He will otherwise come from the farm, he will put his game down, and they will say there is a meeting in the public place, and he will quickly run there. They will say there is a place to drink wine. That man will quickly run there. He will not roast his game. And you know what will happen? At the end of the day, when he will return in the evening, all his game, the animal he killed from the bush, has gone rotten. That is how a lazy man walks. The Bible says he will never lose his game. A lazy man field is not cultivated. A lazy man will go with his son to his field. He will tell his son, that is my farm. From there to there, I will cultivate all of them this year. Come there in the next 2 years. He will never do anything about it. That is what it is with many of us. We have a lot of abandoned projects in our house. You have started writing a book for a very long time. Why have you not completed? If I ask you now, you will tell me that your job did not permit you. Are you the only person working? There are many of us who have started a project or have to open maybe a new ministry or to secure a mentorship with a senior person you see that is getting results, but you don't want to go and complete that project. Why have you stopped? If I ask you now, you will say you don't have time. My friend, you need to push yourself out of your comfort zone. If you want your life to make any meaning, you got to wake up, you got to think better, and you got to think smarter than who you are. Because where you are yesterday might not be what will take you to where you're supposed to be tomorrow. So stay with me, my friend. Don't go away. As I said to you, a lazy man wake up and he pray for rain to fall so that he will sit down at home and other people will sit at home with him. Listen to this. If you have not heard or hear anything from me today at all, listen to this one. Hear it clearly. If you have not heard anything from me today at all, get this very point. When you see a man who run away from rain and he run away from sunshine, you have seen a man who will be poor for the rest of his life. You didn't get what I have just said. When you see a man who run away from rainfall and is also running away from the sunshine, you have seen a man who will be poor for life. I remember some times ago, I was working as a houseboy somewhere in Magodo, and the man I was working with then was an engineer. So he has a block industry, and we will go to the site. When the rain is falling, I will quickly run away and go and hide myself under the shade. And my boss will just stood there in the water, rain will be falling, he will not even mind. In the middle of the sun, I will look for one small paper, I will use it to cover my head, and the man will just be there. He will not do anything, he will just stay there in the middle of the sun. Do you know the man I'm talking about? He owned a very big house, a very magnificent house in Magodo Estate, one of the foremost estates in Lagos, with his car, his children working as a banker, he himself with other investment here and there. I was running away from the rain. I was running away from the sun, but that man was staying there in the middle of the sun. I learned from him since that incident for the rest of my life. I don't run away from rain anymore. Few days ago, it was raining. I took my bath and I entered the rain. When I got to office, my whole body was soaked. And my friend said to me, why can't you wait for the rain to stop? I said, my dear, it doesn't matter. This clothes will dry. And they dry. If I don't tell you that rain beat me that day, you will not know. But many of us, a little sight of rain, we're running to hit it. A little sight of sun, we carry umbrella. You have been carrying umbrella all over the years. Are you fresher than people who have not been carrying umbrella? You have been running away from rain over the years. Are your clothes fresher than every other person? No, it is not. So you could now know that you are doing ridiculous thing that will not profit you in any way. Listen to this before I wrap up on this point. A lazy man will run away from the rain, and he will also run away from the sun. Don't be that kind of a man. The point number 6 is a point that we have not been talking about in the area of motivation. And I decided to dive into it. It is called idonkelism. Idonkelism. What you consider as I don't care attitude. I don't care attitude. In fact, sometimes when I look around, I pity the young generation that are coming after us. Maybe I belong to that generation, I don't know. Or maybe I escaped that generation, I don't know. See a young person and ask him. Maybe a young person went out yesterday and he didn't return early. And he got to the house and you see him or her later. Ask him, you get late, you got home late yesterday. What happened? What did your parents say to you? Oh, the young man will tell you, don't mind those people. They yell at me, but it's okay. I don't care. You hear a young person say that kind of thing. You tell a young person you didn't pass your last exam very well. He will say it's okay. I don't care. I don't give a damn. Why? At what point do you really want to give a damn about your life? Listen to this. There are two demarcations on this matter of I don't careism. Many people don't care about you, about what you say, about what you think about them. They will go and achieve their goal. Yes, that is the good side of I don't care. But another side of I don't care that is bad is the side of I don't care where your I don't careism is hurting other people. You are a manager in an organization. Any day you venture into the branch, anybody that is not there when you venture in, or anybody that say anything when you talk, that person is in trouble. You either sack the person, you ask the person to go to hell. You don't care. You are a kind of father when you step in your house, your children run to hide under the bed. You don't care. You are a kind of father when you step into your house, your wife adjusts herself to sit properly so that you will not notice an error in her. That is the kind of I don't careism that is bad. So you need to strike a balance in your life. You need to care for people, your loved ones, your family, your colleague. You need to show some level of care for all these people. But the area of careism that is bad is the one that you are dying in poverty and you are not ready to do anything to change your situation. That kind of careism is a grave misfortune that the devil has wired into your system. You need to go and receive the baptism of John to get out of that kind of careism. Because I've seen many young people today who are wallowing in poverty. Their leg is strong, their hand is strong. They will tell you there is no job. You tell church people there is a job of 10,000 somewhere, but they don't want to go and do the job. What kind of a person do you call that kind of a person? Few years ago, I was going to school. I was also doing a job that paid me 14,000 naira. I was also paying my house rent. I was also paying the bills in the house. I was also paying my school fees. I also paid my travel to school. Because I did not stay in the campus during my school, I was traveling from home to school almost every day out of the same 10,000. Ask me how do I survive it? It's something it takes a mystery to explain. So listen to this. You got to care about your destiny. You got to care about the thing that you need to care for. If you say you don't care today, you are don't careism will hurt you tomorrow. That is why you must wake up. That is why you must get up. It is time to get up, to get out of your slumber. It is time to get up and get out of your careism. It is time to wake up from your slumber. It is time to wake up from your gluttonity. It is time for you to wake up and show some level of care for this society. It is time for you to wake up and show some level of care for the people that you should care for. Listen to this. I don't care attitude. There are three words together and they mean a lot. Don't be an I don't care person. Don't be a rascal. Don't be an ignorant man as a result of I don't care. I spent roughly 1 hour. I go to fly because I need to move. Ordinarily, I would have loved to stay and continue for 2 hours. I will not be tired. But for those of you who are joining us, I believe you need a lot of data to do this. But let me share this small point with you before I leave you. I've just mentioned point number 6. 4 more points. This one I'm going to mention next. I will not talk much about it. If you need a write-up or article on this talk, you will need to DM me to have the article so that you will read and read it and read it again. I don't want to voluntarily post the article there for now. I want to see some level of commitment. The other time I said that some few people request for the article and we sent to them. So stay with me, don't go away. Benson Adema remains your in-house motivational speaker. Point number 7 is greed. Greed, greed, and greed. I don't know if you have ever heard this story of children, or what we call a short story for children. A story was told of a man who owned a goose that lay a golden hen. And that goose always lay a beautiful hen. And the owner of the goose can sell and make some money. But one certain day, he decided to sell the goose so that he could earn a lot of money. So he decided to slaughter the goose. And then there is no goose anymore, and there is no egg to sell anymore. That is greed. Let me give you another example. A story was told of 2 merchants. One of them is James. Another one is Mark. James and Mark were good businessmen who sell carpets. They traveled to different parts of the city to sell carpet. And then on a certain day, they got to somewhere, sell a lot of carpet, made a lot of money, and as they were returning, they decided to send their servant through one way, and they themselves as senior people, they want to fly down through another way to get home on time. Guess what happened? On getting home, or before they could get home, they traveled through a very high desert, and then rain fell. They decided to enter somewhere and hide, or to stay so that the rain stopped before they move on. Because the rain was heavy, they could not go. They had to sleep. In the night, James became unnecessarily jealous of Mark, and he said, "Why am I doing business with this person? I am better than him. Why can't I break away and do my own business? After all, I'm smarter than him. It is my effort that is using to make money." And he later concludes that if I break away from him, maybe he will want to go and build his own business and become my competitors. At that point, I will not know what to do. So he concluded that he was not going to become maybe break away with him. And then his greed was getting more hold on him. So he decided to brought out a dagger and shoot his friend repeatedly, and he killed him. And then he collects all the money that his friend has in the bag with his own money and dig a soil and bury the 2 money there, and then use mud to cover the place. Immediately it was daybreak, he ran to the village and told everybody that they were attacked during the course, or when they were returning from the business, that they were attacked on their way. The entire village believed him, and they go into the bush, they look for the dead body of his friend, and they were able to bring the dead body of Mark home, and they buried him. Everybody believed him because they were lovely business colleagues. And then a few years later, or a few months later, James decided to go and what did he decide to go and do? To go to the bush where him and his friend hide that night to uncover the earth and bring out the money that he buried. On getting there that night, it was raining as usual, very heavily. What did he do? He decided to look for where he hid the money. And as he was stealing the ground to uncover the money, rain fell. One of the trees in the area he was standing fell on him. Do you know what happened to him? James died in the process. And then 2 days later, they could not find him in the village anymore. And his friends were looking for him everywhere. Where did James travel to? And the villager launched a search for him. And they got to the bush and they found him. And they brought his dead body home. Guess what happened to all the money that they sell? Or all the money they sold that he wanted to steal from his friend, that he killed his friend because of it. They lost all the money. Nobody was able to find those money up to today. So my friend, these things are management tools that will help you as a young person as you set out to do your business and as you set out to pursue your goal. Like we watch in the movies, you see most of the leaders of the gang. What do they always do to their gang members? They take the lion's share of whatever they stole, and then they give a little part of it to their members. And then when one of the members got angry, he will rebel against the leader, and he will break away to establish his own. Do you know what that does to the people most of the time? It causes a disunity. It causes breakup. It causes the leader to lose the influence. That is the same thing that is happening in our corporate environment today. Many leaders have lost the trust of their followers. Many leaders have lost the belief that their followers attach to them because of simple greed. A greed in some organization. Some managing directors of organization establish in their organization that whenever you come late to the office, so portion will be deducted from your salary, regardless of how many times in a month. Some will fly to other parts of the world to enjoy themselves. Yea, their staff have not been paid their salary. I have enjoyed that in some place. So, my friend, don't find yourself in that kind of category. Because if you do, when your greed catch up with you, then you will regret ever engage in that. Greed is a dangerous economic cancer of the bone. Greed is a menace that you must avoid. According to Bill Graham, listen to what he said. He said, we have seen the result of unrestrained greed, corruption, manipulation on the Wall Street, financial mismanagement in the hall of government, fraud and perversion at the higher level of both church and in the state. Religious leaders, some are very greedy. I don't want to talk too much. A religion leader that can afford a private jet, but some of his members cannot pay school fees of their children in secondary school. Just a person needs to go and do something about what he is doing. Listen to this. Some states in their countries, you will see a state governor doing a social project, what I will consider a mundane project that will not add anything to the economy of the nation or their state, that will not add any benefit to the citizen of that state. They will embark on it with millions of nairas. But a project that will bring a benefit to their people is lying dormant for years. Let me give you a practical example of this. A particular state governor in a particular country built a statue of a world leader in that country for some millions of dollars. And in that same state, there was a government project that was in that state for about 6 years before that man assumed the position of leadership. He didn't do anything. As I'm talking to you today, that project is still lying dormant. And that same man used some dollars to do or to build a statue of a world leader that will bring zero or nothing to the economy of that state. My brother, this is corruption. And this is the next point I have in mind. It is corruption. When we talk about corruption, most of the things that come to our mind, it talks about young people or people in government. But listen to this, my friend. All of us are corrupt. All of us are victims of corruption. Our fathers, our mothers, our students, our children send a young person to go and buy something for you. He will come back and tell you that the place he bought something for, they don't have change of $1 or 100 naira. What the young man is saying is not that the people where he buys something do not have change, but he believes that once he tells you that, you will forget about asking for that change. He will go and collect it later. A student who gives money to his lecturer to obtain a result is corrupt. A student who gives some money to his lecturer as a stipend when he is the supervisor of your project, that student is corrupt. A child who looks at his father's money and remove 10 naira and hide it without telling his father is corrupt. A person who is working in an organization and you see the 10 naira of the organization, he spend it and he did not record it and tell the organization, I'm the one who take this, that person is corrupt. There is corruption in government, there is corruption in private sector, there is corruption in politics, there is corruption in election commission. In fact, today, in some countries, there is corruption in anti-corruption sector. There is corruption in police of different nations of the world. You look at what happened a month ago, where a suspect was killed somewhere in one of the foremost countries in the world. You look at what is happening everywhere. Few days ago in one of the countries, a woman said, a widow for that matter, that a police officer raped her from night till daybreak because that woman do not wear face mask. If there is an established government punishment, why couldn't that police officer use that method? In some country of the world today, police sector is the highest corrupt sector in some countries. Listen to this, my friend. You may say it's in different sectors that people are corrupt. The people who are corrupt in those sectors are human beings who sit in the society like me and you some days ago. It is the corruption they practice in their private environment that they took to the public environment. People don't just become corrupt overnight. Their corruption is a manifestation of their private life. Like I always say, your display of knowledge is a function of your strong private life. Your display of wickedness is a function of your strong wicked life. Your public display of corruption is a function of your strong private corruption. So we are all corrupt. If you are a tenant and you are not paying your landlord, you are corrupt. And if you are a landlord and you are charging your tenant unnecessary money to pay your bill, you are corrupt. If you are a woman selling rice in the market and you kick the bottom of your ragolis, what you use to measure things, you are corrupt. Because what you use to measure to men, the same will be used to measure unto you. If you are an individual, you drive across the city, you don't have a driver license, and they catch you, a law enforcement agent catch you, because you don't want to do the right thing, you give the person $200 so that he will let you go. You are the most corrupt person more than that officers you are giving money to. If you own your own car and you drive across the city and your particulars are expired, you did not renew it, you are corrupt. If you are a private enterprise, you don't pay your tax, you are corrupt. Listen to this. Don't take this as a social crusade. It's a motivation segment. Don't take it as an ethics speaking. But these are management tools that will help you to live a good life. Listen to this. No human being is perfect. We all agree on that. But there are people who are better yesterday than who they are tomorrow. There are people who are better today than who they are yesterday. That is what makes a good society and a good man. So corruption is smelling. Our society is smelling with the heat of interposition and nullification. Every society of the world is sweating with the heat of corruption every here and there, because people have not conquered themselves. If you conquer yourself, let me take you briefly to the Bible. Apostle Paul was imprisoned by Governor Felix in the book of Acts of the Apostles. Apostle Paul had a lot of influence. If he want Dr. Luke and his wife to pay some money to Governor Felix for him to be released, he would have done that. Do you know what Apostle Paul said? He said, I am happy to be taken with chains and be taken to the place where I will be prosecuted and face the penalty if I commit any offense, than to pay you any bribe, you Governor Felix. Listen to this. In every society, there are men and women who have stand up and said that I will not be part, or I will not be victim of this economic cancer of the bone. You have not asked me a question. Why I call this the economic cancer of the bone is this. If you are engaged in any of these things I have mentioned today, if you engage in any of them long enough, you will forget about your destiny and your future. Because when the consequence of any of these menarch I have mentioned catch up with you, you will be ever regretted than you were at the beginning of your life. So, there is a saying in some society that if you cannot beat them, join them. Listen to this. If you make that your logo, you will soon regret your action. Because the best logo you could adopt is that if I die doing the right thing, let me die. If I live doing the right thing, let the history remember me. Because those who die for nothing will be remembered for nothing. And those who die for something will be remembered for something. My friend, these are management tools that you can engage as you begin to stand your life. You are listening to Success Bread Monthly Seminar. We are speaking to you live and direct from Lagos, a commercial city, here in Nigeria, in West Africa. We are a member and a team of Success Bread, and we are from Sky High Motivational. My name remains Benson Adema, like you see. The next point I will share with you before I leave here is distraction. Distractions are side attractions that seek to take away your attention. Distraction are side attractions that seek to take away your attention. In the world of the social media, there are a lot of distraction out there. There are a lot of opportunity everywhere. Like I always say, opportunity abounds, but not every opportunity is for you. You need to filter your own opportunity. The problem with young people is that they don't know how to focus their lives, so they divert their attention among multitude of things. In the long run, they miss or they lost in the midst of the multitude of pursuit. Those who are highly successful in life pursue one thing. Until they are successful in that one thing, they begin to divert their attention into another thing. If you are going to be a high flyer employee, you must focus your attention on one area of job. If you are going to be a high flying business person, you must do one business for a very long time. And when usually for 13 years, when you are successful in that business, then you can diversify. If you are going to be a successful footballer or a successful sportsman, you must focus on a particular sport. If you are going to be a successful pastor, you must focus in one area by focusing in pastorate or in pastoring. Listen to this. Those people who are working and they are pastors, many of them could not go far in their work. They could not go far in pastoring. But those who are former pastors are people who are focused in ministry. So, my friend, cut a particular goal in one area of your life and set out to die in that area, or you achieve your goal. That is how to become a high flyer. So, the menace you avoid, number 9, is distraction. I mentioned earlier, number 8 is corruption. And the last point this morning, the last menace you must avoid, the last economic cancer you must avoid in your life, my friend, the last distraction or the last point of thing you must avoid if you want your life to make meaning, if you want God to greet you congratulations when you hit the gate of heaven. The last thing you must avoid, the last thing you must avoid is deceit, is lies. I call this a pseudo fantastica, a pseudological fantastica. This is the last thing you must avoid. Do you know what lies does to a man? When you lie, you need another lie to cover the lie, and then it goes into deceit. And when you deceive people a lot, it grows into what? Pseudo fantastica. A pseudo fantasy is a principle of saying the truth but adding some fantastic hyperbole or adding some fantastic exaggeration into that. I see people do this a lot of times. Sugarcoat some stories to make it more fragrant than what it is. This is not a good way to go. We motivational speakers have a lot of fat to put on the table already. We don't need to add any sugar-coated tongue into it to make it more beautiful than it is. People who are engaged in network marketing industry, they have a fantastic business area already. They don't need to tell you any sugar-coated story for them to deliver to you the message they have. Listen to the word of Osamu Daze. Listen to what he said. He said, I am more convinced that human life is filled with many pure and happy, serene, sincere examples of insincerity. He said, truly splendid of their kind of people, deceiving one another without, strangely enough, any wound inflicted, of people who seem unaware when that they are deceiving each other. What he say is that he say he see people all over the world deceiving each other in some strange way, but the other person do not know that this person is actually deceiving him. In the business world today, there is a lot to say about deceit, about lies every now and then. You got to live your life above this principle. Some call it white lie, some call it black lie, some call it pure lies, some call it common lies. This is not a moral talk. It's a motivation segment orchestrated from management principle. Because we are into management consulting, when we speak to you on personal development, we also speak to you about life coach, we also speak to you about peak performance, we also speak to you in the area of management. The point I share with you today are more related to management. Men and friends, avoid these 10 menaces, and your life will be better than what it has always been. This is why I draw the curtain this morning. If you have some few questions, I want to attend to them in the next 2 minutes. But in the absence of any question, I got to leave you to take care of the rest of the weekend. But anyway, you listen to this, listen carefully and apply what you learned today from Success Bread Seminar, the 1st of August, as we reach you live and direct from Lagos, Nigeria. I am happy to say to you, my friend, happy new month. Go and pursue your dreams. Go and pursue your visions. Put this principle to work. Ask us questions in any area you feel like. If you want a write-up on the talk today, feel free to send us a personal message, and we will be happy to attend to them. A takeaway from us this morning: none of the principle of success will work unless you do. Wake up and do something about your destiny. I see you on top. At the end of the journey, I see you knocking the gate of heaven. And God will say to you, welcome, my son. You have done great. You have conquered the world. You have done your bit. You have influenced the territory. You have set the record straight. When you come face to face with your Maker, what will you tell him that you have done under the sun? If at the age of 70 or 80, your son come to you and say, Father, talk to me about the legacy that you have built, what will you tell your son? Allah Sata. Think on this, my friend. If today is your last day on earth, how or what will we say of you if today your epitaph is being read? What will be read about you? How can one manage all these menace successfully? That is a question from our dear brother. You see, life has a principle that governs the economy of the earth. Those principles are highlighted in the Holy Scripture. Some people call them the karma or the law of karma. There are many other principles that govern the economy of the world. To manage all these menace we have listed, nobody will be able to have 100% of success in managing all of them. But when you are aware that there is something like this to manage as you seek to build your business or to build your life goal, you got to purposely highlight them and consider them when you are about to take a decision. For example, of the greed we talked to you about. Two business people were making money together. And one said, let me kill the other so that all the money come to me. What you learn from this greed is that anytime I want to take a financial decision about the future, I should think, I hope I'm not greedy. If I want to set out to do something, I hope I can do this now. I don't want to wait till tomorrow and procrastinate anymore. So what this will do to you is that when you're about to take a particular decision, you will see one of them right in front of you. Right in front of you doesn't mean it will come physically, but it will be in front of your mental faculty. Ringing bell. You have listened to this principle on so day from Benson Adima. Put it into use here. Now let me share an example with you. I work in an organization. Most of the time when I'm in the office, doing my office work, there will be a strong urge to do some personal thing, maybe responding to a WhatsApp message, maybe I click on Facebook to see the latest thing that are happening, or click on the other social media, or maybe on the current affairs to see what is happening. But because I have read earlier that I don't need to use the time of my employee to do my personal thing, I will remember that principle. That it's not good to use my employee time to do my own thing. So I will restrain myself and then focus. That is talking about the distractions I talked about earlier. So if you keep these principles at the front burner of your decision, at the front burner of your forehead, at the front burner of your heart, it will guide you, or they will guide you at every point of decision. This is how you can manage this principle or this manner or successfully. Not to procrastinate, not to murmur, not to give excuse, not to lie, not to be corrupt. What is the next one? Not to be deceitful, and not to engage in promising tomorrow when you can do something about your life today. In the absence of any other question, I believe your question has been answered. And once again, before I wrap up, our sponsors are Polyem Limited, that is into computer and accessory, POS, and all modern banking equipment like automated teller machines, cash counting machines, and POS, and many other modern systems, devices you can use to print from your phone without a need to connect to your laptop or desktop. They are into that. A Polyem office is located on Awolowo Way in Ikeja, the capital city of Lagos. Lagos is a commercial city, one of the foremost commercial cities in West Africa, if not the whole of Africa. And also Agbenda Media is located in Ikeja. Agbenda Media is into outdoor and indoor advertising, publishing, and many other business. The most trusted organization in terms of advertising, and they are very good in doing their core business. Pazo Health is also our sponsor, with the office at Oregu Ikeja, Lagos. Pazo Health and Beauty is into accessory like perfume, body spray, like toiletry, like home equipment, home instruments, women upkeep, all manners of body lotion you could get in that place. And also I'm happy to announce to you that Pazo Health is also online. Just a click on Google, you get them. In fact, all our sponsors are on social media and on the internet. And then Rodin Health is located at Yaba in Lagos, Nigeria. Rodin Health is into HMO, that is health insurance. They are the very best you can ever think of in the country at the moment. If you want to get any latest information about COVID-19 and how to protect yourself, their website offers a very fantastic information on that. I thank you, our audience. Thank you for being there. Without you, all this speaking and this seminar will be useless. And thank you, those of you, our friends, who listen to us, and at the back of the camera, you call us to say, you need to improve on this, you need to improve on that. We love you. Thank you for the time and energy you invest. A particular senior colleague called us some few weeks ago. He spent about 30 minutes or more to talk to us about one or two things we could do to capture the industry of public speaking. That is love. We thank you so much. Many of you who are listening to us, there are one or two things you want us to improve on. There are one or two things you love us to do to serve you better. My friend, feel free to DM us. Feel free to call us. You can reach us on Facebook. You could reach us on Instagram. You could reach us on LinkedIn. You could reach us on Twitter. You could reach us on Google Chat. You could reach us on almost all the major social media in this part of the world. Talk to us. We will be happy to improve. We will take your correction and work on them. Thank you, those of you who critically critique our work. And thank you, our team, for being there. We love you very, very much. We look forward to more of you. Once again, as I draw the curtain this morning or this afternoon, none of the secret of success will work unless you do. Thank you for being there. This is where we draw the curtain for today. I might not be able to name you all, those of you who have been there, but we say a big thank you. I pray for you. Go into the world, make impact, do something about your life. Don't allow economic meltdown to meet you where you are anymore. We look forward to see you in our next seminar. It's coming up in September, September 5th. That is the first Saturday of every month. And next month, we're looking forward to bringing a very powerful individual. You can't afford to miss it on the 5th of September. Thank you to the Muslim faithful. We say happy season to you. And to the general public, happy new month. To men and friends, our well-wishers, we said either the devil like it or not, you will eat the best of the land. Finally, thank you. I remain Benson Adema, your foremost motivational speaker, reaching you live and direct from Lagos, the commercial city here in Nigeria, in West Africa. Tell the world that you are coming. You will get there, and I will get there. And together, we can influence the world for good. Thank you very much. That will be it for today. Go and enjoy your moment.